It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. This podcast was formed to collectively build a bank of stories from normal people sharing non-linear paths. Unfortunately, social media paints a narrow picture of what success looks like, so I'm doing my best to spread the news that changing course is common and you don't have to know what you want to do the rest of your life at 18. If you're a parent worried about your young adult and whether their path is leading them to success, you're in the right place. I'm a therapeutic consultant who works with young adults to connect them with resources that'll help them get back on that path to success. So if you're curious, let's chat. You can schedule a free consultation through my website. Today, my guest is Carey Conley. For the last 20 years, Carey had a flourishing business career which took her around the world. Unfortunately, tragedy struck and everything changed. She lost her husband in 2014, and just 3 years later, she lost her son, both to suicide. After these devastating losses, she was faced with a choice. She had to find purpose through despair, or she had to throw in the towel. So she chose purpose. While she enjoyed her business prior to her loss, she knew that this next chapter was calling her to rise to a new level that would make an impact on more people on a larger scale. She wants to help those who feel lost in the world without a purpose and those who have lost someone tragically or unexpectedly and are now faced with the same decision she faced in 2017. Alongside her daughter, Laurel, she poured every ounce of love and hope she had into their book titled Keep Looking Up. The book serves as a way to share their personal stories of coping with loss and as a way to find a new purpose on the other side of grief. She's dedicated herself in this new chapter to helping others define their life vision. She helps people create a crystal clear written vision for every area of their life so they can take action every day towards living out their purpose. Purpose is what gives people hope. So why vision? Because it has become clear to her that our youth and young adults are so lost and they need to find purpose. So we can't ignore suicide. However, we can work together to reduce the numbers, and we can do this through vision work. This is Carey's mission. Let's not wait any longer. Here's Carey. Carey, thank you for carving out time to be a guest on the Success is Subjective podcast. I know that we have never connected before, so this is actually kind of exciting because obviously I found you through the interwebs of like, oh, what this woman is doing is interesting. I need to know her and my audience needs to know what she's doing. So thank you for carving out some time to be a guest.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad that you found me.
So let's just jump in. I always like to, obviously we're going to talk mostly about what it is that you're doing now, right? Or how you kind of got to this place of what it is that you're doing now. But I always like to give a little bit of a snapshot for the listeners on your own personal journey, kind of through adulthood or through young adulthood, getting to where you are. So tell our listeners, where were you raised? Where did you grow up? And what was your emerging adult experience leading to where you are today?
Okay, well, how much time do we have? Because I am a really old girl, so. Well, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and met my husband there. We raised our kids there, and I moved to Arizona a little over 7 years ago. I grew up in those days, and I think this is still kind of true, Joanna. You know, we were all taught to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good degree, get a good job, and work your way up the ranks, right? And I did that and was miserable. So I got out of college, got married to my husband because we had met, like I said, in high school. And everybody, this was the late 80s, Joanna. So everybody at that point was all doing the work your way up the corporate ladder thing. And they were doing it really well.
Yeah.
Including my husband. I, on the other hand, kept changing jobs every 2 years because I just couldn't find the right job. I thought it was the job that would make me happy, right? And at about that point, I met a woman who came to speak on a staff development day at one of the jobs I was at. And I was so inspired by her that I asked her if I could take her to lunch and pick her brain and figure out why I can't fit this job mold, right? And she was the first person, Joanna, that said to me, Carey, you can create your life to look however you want it to look. You just have to get super clear on what that is. And so I took a day off of work, and with a legal pad of paper, because again, this was the late 80s, we did everything in journals and legal pads. I wrote out very clearly what I wanted my life to look like, where I wanted to be living, what kind of mom I wanted to be. I was beginning to understand at that point that I wanted to be working from home, especially when we started a family. So I noodled a lot of ideas about different entrepreneurial paths that I could take, not knowing what that path was going to be. I just knew what I wanted. I got really, really clear, Joanna. And so because I got really clear at that point, those things started showing up for me, and I was able to jump into, first of all, I jumped into the network marketing world with a company called Arbonne, which most people are familiar with, and did that while I was raising my kids, built a really big team. And then 13 years ago, I started speaking and coaching. And so what I teach people now, and I've done this with thousands of people, as to why they need to have this crystal clear vision and how to write it on paper like they've never written before. So I've kind of become known as a vision expert in the space.
And that's so first of all, that's awesome. And I think that this is so needed. Parents, as much as young adults, maybe young adults more so than kind of the quarter life, midlife, post-retirement kind of, vision of, or really just any of these transition points. Maybe I'm just kind of talking and there's no question there. I'm not sure, but maybe I'm coming from a place of curiosity. Who do you feel like you work with the most?
Well, that's been interesting over the past several years, because when I decided to step into publicly teaching my little vision workshops, and then I started a coaching program that I brought people into, at that point, Joanna, a lot of them were mostly female service-based entrepreneurs, a lot of women who are wanting to grow their own company, a lot of speakers and coaches, not all, but a lot. And so that became my audience for a long, long time. So I would go out and speak, or I would do my own workshops, and I would bring people into a year-long entrepreneurial mastermind program. I would help them get clear on their vision, then create a monetizing game plan, because most entrepreneurs that I meet, I've said this once at a luncheon and it about killed everybody. So I said most of the entrepreneurs I meet are running really expensive hobbies, right? So I would bring them in to teach them how to change that, and did that very, very successfully for a long time. Unfortunately, during that time frame over the past 10 years, I first lost my husband to suicide in 2014. And then 3 years later, lost my 25-year-old son also to suicide. And so a lot shifted for me at that point, Joanna. I continue to work with entrepreneurs that really, really need my help to shift from habit to money-making business, especially if they want to be speakers and coaches. But my focus right now is helping the young adult community get really clear on their vision for their life, because I know that most of them are not doing well.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And I imagine now that is a part of the connection with the vision work, right, for your previous population. And then obviously having those personal experiences significantly impact you or kind of just shift, right, what you were doing. So that would then roll out the podcast that you're hosting. So let me just ask quickly, can you tell the listeners, for anybody that's, hey, I've actually never connected with Carey before. What is her podcast? Tell us more. Tell us the title of your podcast, how folks can connect with you, and what's the type of guest or listenership that you have with your podcast.
Yeah, we launched the podcast 2 years ago, and originally it was called Moving Through and Beyond. And so I would, every episode, it drops weekly, every Monday on all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, everything. I would bring on guests, Joanna, that were pretty high profile. I know a lot of really amazing people that have done some great things in this world. They're big thought leaders and amazingly successful, but they all have a story. Not always like mine, but it's some of them financial ruin, coming back from that. Some of them meant their own mental health breakthroughs, addictions, relationship problems. So they've all been willing to come on and share that adversity and how they got through it, and give tips to my listeners on how they can also get through their own adversity. Yeah. At the beginning of the year, we started really wanting me to go all in on focusing on young adults. And so we changed the name to Mental Health Breakthroughs for Young Adults and Families. And so now I still bring on people to interview, but I've mixed up the format a little bit, Joanna. So sometimes I will just do a solo episode. Like I did one this month in September that we are recording right now, Suicide Prevention Month. I told a little bit more about my story and what I've learned about suicide. I also interviewed my daughter, who's now 30, married, and has 2 little boys. She and I co-authored a book together, actually 2 years after my son passed, called Keep Looking Up. And sometimes she and I speak together. So we do solo podcasts, and then once a month, I will put a young adult in the hot seat. So I'll bring on somebody. And when I say young adult, like early 20s to mid 30s, who are willing to come on and talk to me about their vision for their life, where they feel like they're getting stuck, what are they struggling with, so that I might be able to give them some advice that the listeners can also benefit from. So yeah, it's been going on for 2 years. It's great.
Can I ask you a question about putting the young adults in the hot seat? Because I'm kind of curious. What do you see? And maybe this is just like a question, maybe a theme that has been emerging in the last 2 or 3 episodes that you've had specifically interviewing the young adult.
Oh, yeah.
What are you hearing from that population?
Yeah, it's interesting to me how the theme has been several. So most of them will tell me they feel like they were already behind. When I'm in the recording studio, there's a 22-year-old intern in the room with me. And I asked him one day in between recording how he felt about his life right now. And he shared a lot with me. And the one thing he said that I've never heard before, but I've repeated it, and all the young adults that I've talked to have agreed. He said, I feel like I'm already behind. He's 22, Joanna. But, same thing with my 25-year-olds, my 30-year-olds that I've interviewed. And I'm going to chalk that up, unfortunately, to a lot of social media influence.
Yeah.
That, we all get on there and we see all of our people crushing it.
Right.
And the pressure has got to be insane.
Yeah.
Because I thought back to when I was 22, my husband and I had just gotten married. I was finishing up college. We were loving life. I mean, we had a lot of friends. We felt excited about our new careers, excited to be out and independent, which is another thing I'm seeing a common theme of. That's been challenging for a lot of young adults to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's super helpful. Those are themes that I feel like I see too, or hear, like common phrases. And so it's an unfortunate excitement that is reinforced, or you're seeing the same thing and hearing the same thing from the young adults that you're working with. Yeah. So, okay. I'm just going to continue to go off script if you're okay with it.
Girl, it's my favorite part.
Okay, so I love this idea. Obviously, the title of this podcast is called Success is Subjective for a reason. And I am bringing on guests who are giving snapshots into the adversity that they experienced, talking about how their life was not this linear path. And I love that you talked about even back in the late 80s, like, I'm like, why am I working these jobs for only a couple of years and then I'm miserable and then I'm switching? Because like you said, culturally at that time, it was like you worked one job and you worked up the ladder. Like that was a thing. That's not really a thing right now, or at least that's not common. So knowing your story personally, but also like who you work with nowadays, I'm just going to ask you this question because I do ask most of my guests, do you see yourself as successful where you are now?
Again, I'm much older. I'm 62 now, Joanna. So I've had a lot of life. Success used to be defining it by how much money you have, the assets you have, a house, all this stuff. And I've been very blessed that I've built 2 really successful businesses. First in Arbonne, got to the top rank, earned the car, earned all the trips, all the things. And it made me feel really good about myself, right? Then when I stepped into speaking and coaching, same thing. Did really, really well for many, many years, bringing in, like I said, all these entrepreneurs into a year-long mastermind. Now the definition of success for me is very different. Obviously, we love all those things, right? I love having a nice apartment and trips, traveling. But it's the impact, I think, that matters more to people now, as to, especially in my age group, where we don't have to worry about the mortgage and the food and all that, roof over our head. It's now a matter of, okay, what legacy am I leaving here? And this is, again, why I want to work so much more with the young adults, because if I can help them with their mental health, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about their relationships, change their mentality around money, then they're going to trickle that down into their kiddos, right?
Yeah.
So for me, success right now is still being able to maintain the lifestyle I have with less.
Yeah.
But it's now a matter of how much can I help other people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think the follow-up question, and we can cross this off if we feel like, no, we've already talked about that. My like piggyback off of that is when I hear you talking about creating a vision with young adults and they're talking about where they want to be, how they are, no longer behind or still having those assets. Like some of that stuff doesn't go away because culturally, and especially with society or the social media, like we're still getting influenced by all of those outside sources that say we need that, or we need to be there, or we need to be doing those things. So I imagine that their vision of success is still something that you're trying to extrapolate for them to better understand. So just, is there anything maybe that you haven't already shared in that vein for really trying to understand what success looks like through the visioning process with a young adult?
Yeah, a big piece of my process is getting people to think 3 years out, Joanna. So when I do workshops, when I do vision calls with people, I get them to tell me, okay, tell me how old you're going to be in 3 years and how old will all your family members be? Because time and aging is non-negotiable. And I think especially young adults are not thinking that far ahead. They're thinking right now. So when I asked this young man what he saw, because he was the first one I put in the hot seat, right? The young intern I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He was 22, so he's going to be 25. And I said, just define to me what you would like your life to look like at that point. Where are you living? What kind of work are you doing? Who do you have relationships with? Are you going to be married? Do you see that? And I do that because it gives you something to really laser focus on so that you can think about, okay, if that's what I want to create, because this is what I did for myself, like I said, when I was 28, this is what I want to see in 3 years. What can I be doing right now to just start taking some baby steps in that direction? So that you don't get overwhelmed. You don't look at it and go, wow, that's just way too big and that's never going to happen. Right? So we got to have a target that we can bring down to, okay, I know what I need to do just today to keep moving that forward.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That sounds awesome. So, oh my gosh, I want to jump ahead to just be like, how do people connect with you? But I do want to ask at least one more question, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. If you, this is a little bit, some people like responding to this or answering this. And some people, when I ask it are like, meh, we'll see. And I'm curious what you would say, but if you could go back and change something about your life's path, would you? And if so, what would it be?
Well, obviously, the one thing I would change was the trauma that I've been through, but that's, nothing that I could have changed. And I'm a big enough believer now, Joanna, that nothing you have done is a failure or it's wrong. Every step you take, and I think this is another big thing, especially young adults struggle with, is taking any kind of step in a risky, what they perceive as a risk. Nothing you go and do that is your heart's desire, whether it works out the way you thought or not, is a failure or that it's wrong. Every part of it is a thing that you need to learn something from so that you can apply it to the next thing. Obviously, building 2 businesses, lots of things that I would go back and go, wow, didn't see that coming. But I know what those lessons were, and all of them feed into who I am now and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think it's people look backwards too much.
Oh, good answer. Okay. So one thing that you actually said, I feel like I just need to kind of speak to. I literally had a conversation with a parent last week where they said, hey, I had this conversation with my son. He's in his mid-20s, lives at home, is not doing anything. And parents were, they're doing everything that they possibly can. How do we help you? What do you need for support? Like, what do you want to do? And it's too much for him. And he had the insight to share with his parents directly. And this is kind of speaks to what you just talked about. I would rather not do anything and fail at it than try. So I would rather just stay here and be in this miserable situation than actually attempt to do something that is terrifying to me. And I have this fear of failure. So it was really obviously profound and impacted the parents because they were shook by this young person saying this. And it also just, I think that's a little extreme, but it certainly is more common nowadays than it used to be, this fear of doing anything, because if you're not automatically an expert or perfect at it, which is so unrealistic to, I mean, you had to learn to tie your shoes at some point in your life, and it's not like you tied them the right way the first time.
Yeah.
So that's life. So I just like that you said that it's important to also focus on looking ahead and not looking back. So thank you for that reminder.
I could talk all day long on this.
Well, I feel like, honestly, I'm probably going to circle back to you as an entrepreneur myself and this podcast host. I am at a point in my professional career and in my life personally where I could benefit from some vision work for not just where I want to be in the next few years, but, obviously the steps that I need to take today to get there. I think I've lost a little sight of my vision. And so, or what I wanted my vision to be, or I just got older and now I've checked that box of been there, done that with this thing. And it was super cool. And now what's next for me? So I think I might circle back and just see how you might be able to help me personally, not just the young adults that are listening to this.
Well, for having me on the show today, I want to gift you an hour call with me. So we'll set that up.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So how do people connect? How do young adults or parents connect with you?
Yeah. So first thing is I want to give a gift to all your listeners. My first book is an actual workbook, Joanna, that is so simple a 5-year-old can do it on what we just touched on, how to write your vision on paper, how to break those down into bite-sized goals, right? It's called Vision is Victory. And I'm going to give you a link that you can put in the show notes so they can download it for free, right?
Yay, thank you.
So there's that. And once they get that, they end up getting my weekly newsletter if they want it, right?
Cool.
But I have a website, careyconley.com. All of my things are there, my podcast. I have a young adult community I'm building called Vision is Victory Academy, so they can learn more about that. And I'm all over social media, LinkedIn, all the things.
All the things. And we'll make sure we literally have all of those links easily accessible in the show notes. Carey, thank you again for taking the time, being a guest, sharing your story, and talking about the really stinking cool thing that you're doing right now for this next generation of young people.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And they seem to be as well. So thank you for letting me be here, Joanna. I've enjoyed your energy.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guests for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.
Do you have a teenager or young adult who seems to have lost their way? Maybe they need help navigating adolescence, adulthood, and decisions surrounding higher education. Or maybe they have become withdrawn, their grades are slipping, or they are flat out living a reckless lifestyle, and you're concerned about their health and well-being. If this describes what your teen or young adult is facing, a therapeutic consultant may be able to help. Mental health, addiction recovery, and higher education can all be equally expensive. While information is everywhere, how do you know what option is the best one for your family? Some parents have the time to research and navigate this on their own. Some don't. If the latter applies to you, enter therapeutic consultants. Therapeutic consultants, like Joanna, listen to your family's specific needs and advocate on behalf of your loved one. TCs will research therapeutic resources, recommend treatment programs, and assist during adulthood transitions. Not being affiliated with any program, their support is completely objective and catered toward the best interest of each unique family. To find a qualified therapeutic consultant to work with, check out TCA, also known as the Therapeutic Consulting Association. Their website is therapeuticconsulting.org, all one word. Again, that's therapeuticconsulting.org. Then click the Find a Pro tab up at the top.